So welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm pleased to introduce Rachel Pether, who is an exceptional lady in the space of finance and crypto. I've known Rachel now for possibly 6-7 years, and she's actually a senior advisor at SkyBridge Capital and also a TV host in the fintech TV and crypto space. So welcome, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me, James. I can't believe it's been 6 or 7 years. Where has that time gone?
I know. I think we've all lost a couple of years from COVID as well. But yeah, it probably even a little bit longer when we first met, and then we're actually neighbours, aren't we? But also we talk a lot around crypto, and you've been doing some nice travels recently. You've been to the Bahamas and Florida and New York, and the whole kind of advising and raising. It sounds exciting what you've been up to.
It's been really great. Yeah, I hasten to add that the Bahamas was indeed for work. It wasn't just a jolly. We actually hosted a Crypto Bahamas event there in partnership between SkyBridge and FTX. So we had a great number of people from across the digital asset community descend on the Bahamas. So it was a great 4 days of learning and a little bit of sunbathing at the end.
Has that changed much, the way that the events are put together and people contribute and the information that's shared? Has it changed much in the last few years?
It has, and I guess it has for a couple of reasons. So SALT, which is the conference series, stands for SkyBridge Alternatives. So that's always been a conference platform. It's been going for about 12 years now. And at the start of the pandemic, we actually pivoted because we couldn't have in-person events. We did have a digital series called SALT Talks. And then almost in line with how SkyBridge has been changing as a firm away from hedge funds into more digital assets, cryptocurrencies, the conference has really gone that way as well. So the event in the Bahamas was the first crypto focus one, but I think we'll see more of a crypto focus incorporated in the events going forward as well.
As it becomes a large part of everything that we're doing and involved with and buying. So if I can, obviously I'll introduce you to everybody else. I mean, one of the things I've always admired about you is that you're super focused and driven, and you've had a change. Obviously, you started off your career as a journalist, and then you've now moved into advisory and raising capital. And you're very driven. You set your goals, and I think anyone that's listening to this can take a lot of inspirational guidance from that. But if you tell us a little bit about how you've then gone from becoming a journalist and then moving, very, very different kind of career paths. How have you done that transition, and how have you kind of got to where you are now?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for saying that, James. I think of you as someone that's very driven and has goals, and you've taught me a lot about that personally and also via some great book recommendations. So I thank you for everything that you've shown me.
You're welcome.
As well. But I actually I studied calculus and statistics at college, and then I, not coincidentally, but I almost fell into journalism. I did an internship at Television New Zealand, and then I moved to the UK and worked for the BBC for about 6 years. But I'd never lost that love of numbers. And I looked around me in 2007, and a lot of my friends working in the City of London didn't even really like numbers that much. They just saw it as a safe, ironic in 2007, saw it as a safe career choice. And so I retrained in 2007, moved into finance. Shortly afterwards, I actually moved to the Middle East. So I've been in Abu Dhabi since 2008. And I was originally working with one of the sovereign wealth funds here called Mubadala. I was with them for almost a decade. And then the last 3 years, I've been with SkyBridge Capital.
Okay, you've seen a lot of change for us. 2008, you went through obviously the financial crisis, but you've seen a lot of developments and changes here then in the last 14 years.
Absolutely. And it's quite funny, the timing, James. I signed my contract with Mubadala at the start of September 2008. And then a month later, we were just inundated with CVs from people that were way more qualified than I was. So I really got in at a good time, just before the West really, felt the tension of the Lehman Brothers crash and the financial crisis that ensued. So yeah, I mean, the country's gone through so many changes. The Emirate of Abu Dhabi, Mubadala, went through a lot of changes, but I think that really set up a great environment for me, because I was doing a lot of stuff for the first time, but the company itself was doing a lot of stuff for the first time. And you write that large to the Emirate of Abu Dhabi was even doing a lot of things for the first time. So it was, you've been in this region a long time as well. It was this great kind of fail fast, fail forward culture. We just really wanted to get things done and bring ourselves up the curve. So it was a really, just a baptism of fire, but it was a great induction into the Abu Dhabi ecosystem.
Yeah, I guess that was a good timing as well, and things evolving and growing here.
Absolutely.
So the skill sets that you had developed from being a journalist, is there anything that you was able to carry over into your new role, or have you had to kind of completely learn from the beginning?
So that's a great question. Like, obviously a lot of the technical knowledge is very different, but I did a lot of thinking about this, like, what are the comparables? What do I like about each industry? And it's really, I love asking questions. And if you look at, both in journalism, investment management, it's never about having all the answers. It's about knowing how to ask the right questions. And that's a part of it that I really enjoy, taking all that information, looking at, in journalism, looking at the story, and also across to investment management. It's that mosaic theory, right? You take information from a lot of different sources, you ask questions, and you piece it all together. And I suppose it's quite similar to what you do as well. I mean, on balance, how much time do you spend asking questions and listening versus how much time do you spend talking? I'm sure you're probably quite heavily weighted towards the former and the asking questions as well.
Yeah, I think with anything, the better the advisor, the better the quality of the questioning. It's if we're talking too much and we're the one doing the speaking, then it's the engagement is different. So I can see why that skill set that you'd honed had definitely put you in a good position moving into the advisory space that you're in now. So, and in terms of role models and mentoring or coaching, did you have much of that when you either in the journalism space or when you moved across to SkyBridge?
Absolutely. And I think that's really important on a number of levels. And I guess you can break it down, like most things, in numerous ways, like the formal versus the informal, the within the work environment versus more the personal side. And I think it's really important to have both, right? And what I find is this world that we're living in, it's not just a work coach. It really does become almost a guidance counselor, a life coach. And I think it is important to have someone within the work environment, like more like a mentor that knows the system, the policies, the politics, that can really guide you through that, but also someone external that can really give the outsider's perspective. And I count myself so fortunate. I had some great mentors during my time at Mubadala who really coached me and also taught me a lot about the Abu Dhabi ecosystem and how all the different people and corporations and companies are interconnected, which was really useful. And then certainly at SkyBridge and on the journalism side, I've had a lot of people that have acted as my mentor, either formally or informally. And they really do, carry through, because they often have a vested interest in your career. And then as they get to know you, they have a vested interest in you as a person. So I still keep in touch with the very first person that interviewed me at Mubadala in 2008 is actually one of my most trusted mentors still to this day. So
wow, that's nice.
Yeah, it's great. And they especially, you know, it's like in a place like Abu Dhabi, when you're away from your immediate family, then your tier 1 circle becomes very important. So I feel very fortunate.
I mean, there is a lot of good books and podcasts and advice out there. I think it's just, one, I think it's finding the right people to surround yourself that have got a track record. But I think it's also, you've got to keep yourself open to receive the information, and you've got to want to develop and learn and evolve, haven't you? Which is something we always talk about, and we share books and stories and podcasts. I think you've got to almost make it part of your mantra, the thing that you're doing all the time, to develop, and you want to grow and learn and be around people as well that are also of a similar mindset, which clearly you've done.
And that excuse that you don't have enough time for self-development is just so archaic. You know, you make time for things that are important to you. So it's about prioritizing. And to be fair, most of the books you share with me are only about, you know, they're about 100 pages. So that's very manageable and digestible in terms of finding the time.
I can't read anything that's more than that. I lose the concentration. So what advice, anyone that's listening to this that might be thinking of a career change or going into something that might be a little bit scary or new, maybe in their 30s or 40s, what advice would you give to somebody that's looking to make that shift in a career?
I suppose the short answer there would be do it. The longer answer would probably be just do it. But I think, you know, absolutely. And this goes back to that point on asking questions, right? So not only do you have to ask questions of others, but also ask the right questions to yourself. So what is it that you really want to do? What makes you happy? What do you enjoy? What can you make a career out of? And don't be scared about that career change, because, you know, I'm in my 40s. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And I think we can look around us and think that people have it very much together, and a lot of people do, but people are really telling their own story as they go. And I look at my mum as an example. She was New Zealand's the first female scientist in New Zealand to work in a university laboratory, and then she started up her own. Yeah, then she started up her own clothing business, and then in her 50s she went back to university, did a degree in education, and became a teacher. And so I suppose
I didn't know that. Amazing.
Yeah, and this is, you know, she's from a different generation. She had me when she was 43, so even that made her an older parent back then. And I look to her, so that's the environment in which I grew up, that you don't just go to one career and stay there. If you have different interests and different hobbies, then for sure go and pursue them. And I think I also saw the relationship between her and my dad, when my dad, you know, when my mum in her 50s, we were young then, we were, you know, I was around 7 or 8 when she went back to university. So my dad looked after us so that my mum would have the freedom to study. And so that's what I grew up with. And so to me, anything is possible if you have the right support around you. So back to my short answer, do it.
No, that's an amazing story. I didn't know that about you. And I guess always it goes back to the seeing and getting the encouragement from others. I think it's that has such a big role to play, doesn't it?
Definitely. Feeling like you have that support, because no one wants to make a big life change alone. Yeah.
And one of the things, you know, obviously being a close neighbour with you, we've shared a few New Year's Eves and Christmas parties and things. And one thing that I've always been impressed with you about is when we're all having some drinks and ready to go and do a New Year's Eve celebration, you've said, no, I have a Zoom with my friends. Is it about 4 or 5 friends that you have in different parts of the world, and you all jump on a Zoom together and talk about the goals that you have for the following year, personal goals, career goals, relationship goals. And I think that's amazing. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
No, I'd love to. And I appreciate you listening, but I also hasten to add that when we do these Zoom calls, we typically have a celebration drink as well. So we're not missing out on all the fun, but we actually
adds to the creativity, maybe.
Exactly. And so we are quite structured about it. So there's 4 different categories. We have, I want to be, I want to give, I want to have, and I want to do, which really makes you think about life from more of a 360 perspective. And you can write as many as you want under each, but we typically limit it, typically have about sort of 4 to 5 each. And then myself, and we've now whittled it down to actually 2 others, because the others have, got small children. It's harder to find the time. But we typically meet up via Zoom once a quarter and do a bit of a recap on where we stand in our goals, where we've been struggling, if some of the goals were maybe not misaligned at the start, but maybe they're not so relevant given how things have evolved or changed. So we also obviously have the flexibility to change them, but it's really just a check-in and to, I suppose, hold ourselves accountable to them as well, so we don't just write them down and forget about them.
And I think that word, the accountability, is so crucial, isn't it? Because and one of the, when you read any books or you listen to any kind of motivational speakers, the point about telling everybody what you want to achieve, you overcome the fear part of it, but secondly, it's like, oh, now I've told everybody, I have to now go and do it, because not only do I not want to let myself down, which is more important, but actually I don't want to tell other people I'm going to do something, and now they're going to ask me and I go, oh, I'm not doing that, or I didn't decide to do this, or I haven't achieved it. So I think that outwardly expressing what you want to achieve, I think has a powerful reason for you to say, I now have to do it. Do you find that as well?
Absolutely. And I suppose it's that the act of verbalization is one, the act of verbalizing it to someone else that you trust, that is going to be checking in on you. And it's funny, you mentioned that I was just in the US and the Bahamas. One of the people on that little group is actually based in Texas, and I went to see her, and we sat down in person and went through the list, and it was just fabulous. We had a couple of hours really speaking about why we weren't, achieving one of the goals, or why we weren't on the path after 5 months. Is it that our desires have actually changed? Is that still something we really want to achieve? Is it still realistic? And it was just great. I mean, writing it down, articulating it out loud to someone else, it really does. Accountability is the key word there.
Yeah. No,
we need to get you in the group. We need to get you in the group next year, James.
For sure. I would love to. I'd love to. So at the moment, obviously you're just focusing on the crypto space. How did you, what was it that you actually, that happened for you to go just specifically into crypto?
So SkyBridge, firstly, that's a great question. SkyBridge as a firm had been looking at the digital asset space for quite some time. So through the Silk Conference series, we had the Winklevoss brothers speak at one of the events. I think it was 2014 or 2015. But as a firm, as an institutional firm, we weren't comfortable with sort of institutionalization of the industry. So the regulation was very unclear. To some degree, it's still a little uncertain today. There wasn't institutional custody, so people were doing self-custody, which, as you know, is not very safe for investors. And so it wasn't really until 2020 that we started to look at this space in more earnest, particularly with what we were seeing in the markets through the pandemic with, QE or whatever they were calling it. And so as a firm, we made our first investment in the digital asset space, and a sizable investment in Bitcoin in 2020. And now we have about $1 billion of cryptocurrency assets on the balance sheet, whether that's
Amazing.
direct cryptocurrency tokens, coins, or whether that's private market deals that we've done as well with, whether that be exchanges, Bitcoin mining companies, etc., or the public market companies as well. So the likes of like Coinbase, MicroStrategies, Riot, Marathon, some of those publicly listed Bitcoin miners. And obviously the publicly listed markets and the private markets have had a bit of a rough ride in the last couple of months in terms of volatility and valuation.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the last 3 or 4 weeks with Luna and different cryptos. There's been quite a drop and volatile in all markets. There has, but specifically in crypto, how have you handled that in terms of client relationships and advice that you're giving and what you see around the crypto space?
Yeah, so you can look at that in a number of ways, and maybe just to pick up on the point you made about Luna, I think what that will do, and we're seeing it playing out in the markets now, is more this not flight to quality, but sorry.
So the Italian that you're learning.
That's Mark's phone that he left here that is talking Siri to me. Yeah, so I think what we've seen happening in the crypto markets, it's interesting with the Terra Luna, because the way we see the digital asset space is there are some companies that have great network, number of users, development team, a real world business case behind them. And then there are, 95% of coins and tokens that may trend towards zero. And so what we think will happen with, post Luna is that you will see more of a focus on the quality assets rather than just, investing in the top 10 coins or the top 20 coins by market cap. Because I think what Luna showed us is that you can even have a great market cap, but perhaps it's not the highest quality. Do you really know what you're investing in? So I think that's one part of it. But sort of just take a step back on what have we been telling clients? What's our view? Like, we're very bullish on the digital asset space, and we do see that the recent market volatility is quite natural. I mean, a lot of risk assets have been sold off and the market in general has seen a lot of volatility. But we really do see this as one of the greatest investment opportunities of our lifetime. I wasn't active in the investment management space when the internet came around. So for me, this is the greatest investment opportunity that I've seen in my lifetime. But we do think that it's akin to the opportunities that we saw at the end of, the 1990s in terms of a real game changer and how we communicate to each other, our payment systems, how we generate content, how we build our own brands and drive businesses. I mean, it's such a game changer. And I guess it's also important to note that when I talk about cryptocurrencies, I don't mean currencies per se. I'm looking at the digital asset ecosystem. So the blockchain and the technology that's underpinning it.
And everything's just, interlinked, the way in which the world is moving and the pace in which, one of the things I've been so impressed with is the information, the data, the way in which the time it takes for things to change and evolve now is just getting quicker and faster. And the need for the new developments and the technologies which underpin it is only going to become stronger as time passes. So, but I guess with the Luna, that like with everything when I'm advising clients, I guess it comes down to diversity, and that's one of the great things with investing into a fund such as yourself, so you get access and exposure to a wide range of cryptos and the ecosystem that goes with it.
Absolutely. And let's face it, this is a very nascent asset class, and there is so much to learn. And with tens of thousands of different protocols and coins, you're just going to work yourself into a frenzy if you try and learn about all of them. So I think it is quite important to outsource to people that have been studying this space. And also, I've been looking at this space for the last 4 years, and it's changing so quickly that there is just so much to learn all the time. Like, I still feel very much like a novice, and I've probably spent about 10,000 hours studying it, and I have barely touched on NFTs, which is a whole, different area. Yeah. So it's tough, but it is a really exciting industry, and you're probably investing in it or using it in some shape or form, even if you don't yet know about it.
Yeah, digital currency is going to be our future. There's no way around that. It's just, none of us really know exactly what that form is going to look like specifically. And when we talk about, and one of the things that I've always been kind of hammering into clients and so passionate about, aside from obviously me wanting to help their investments grow, is to help them grow as an individual as well. So grow their skill set, mindset, their capabilities. And this is obviously something that you've done over the last 5-10 years. Do you see a connection between self-development and personal growth to your net worth? Do you see a correlation and a connection between them?
It's a very interesting question, and one that we've actually been looking at in another project that we're working on, which is called the Speakeasy Club, which is a public speaking online platform. But what we're trying to do there is not only give people or coach people through developing their public speaking skills, but also their confidence. And I think that I'd like to pick up on that confidence piece of the relationship that you just mentioned, because I think when you look at self-development and net worth, a lot of that can come down to confidence, whether that's confidence in your investment decisions, confidence in asking for that pay rise, confidence in saying, this isn't working out for me, I'm going to move to a different investment framework. And I do think that as you develop more as a person, some of those softer skills, you become more self-aware, then that will have a great impact on both your career and I guess therefore your net worth, but also your investments as well. So yes, I'm such a big believer in self-development and developing those soft skills, because this, James, it's such a relationship business. You tend to, you'll want to do business, particularly on the investment side, with people that you like, people that you trust, and people that will make you money. And there's a lot of people out there that could make you money. So it really comes down to me, I think that the differentiating factors are people that you like and people that you trust. And I would trust someone much more if they do, a lot of work on themselves and they're all about personal growth. That would give me greater trust than someone who thinks they know it all, for sure.
Yeah. No, and I've talked about this before with on videos and with other people that, if you can show somebody that you are doing it yourself and you're congruent, and you say, look, this is what I'm doing, I'm working on this, and look, why don't you do this with me and I'll coach you and show you. It goes back to, your mother and you. If they're doing it themselves and they're saying, look, this is what I'm doing, and then I think that that stands, very high as credibility, as opposed to just telling people what to do, but not really opening up yourself and being transparent and congruent.
I think that congruent word's a really good one. I'm going to steal that, if that's okay with you. So
no problem at all. We can NFT it. Well, thank you, Rachel. I think you shared some great insights into you, and I think some courage and inspiration for others in the crypto space. I think they could potentially reach out to you if that's okay. And also you've got this course, the Speakeasy course, which I think is amazing. I've signed up to it. I think we could all have coaching in that space. Obviously, it's an area that you have mastered in your career as a journalist. I appreciate you being able to pass back your skills and experience on that. So I think we could all as you mentioned, that the confidence side, whether or not it's just how to talk to your peers or your boss, or as a new potential career that you're looking, or a business partner, I think being able to take little tips and skills there to help, level up, I think is important. So I'll leave the details for Rachel's course below, and you can reach out and look at it. It's what, $150?
It is, yes, 149 to be exact. But we're
psychological pricing.
Yeah. And we're really, really happy that you've signed up as well, James, and very open to feedback. And I think that the work that you're doing is great. Like the affinity that you have with your clients and the way you communicate is really impressive. I think a lot of people in the industry could learn from you as well.
Well, thank you. And I think everything's just about learning and developing and being around people which have the same mindset, and we could all help each other and learn. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Rachel, and good luck with the career and the path that you have, and I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Great stuff. Thanks so much for having me, James.